Lore keepers, prepare yourselves. The world as we know it is spinning out of control as the Ultimate Six make their debut, leaving a path of destruction in their wake that not even Spider-Man or the X-Men can stop. Meanwhile, Daredevil's world continues to crumble, pushing him to a dangerous new extreme where we see him take on a deadly new persona. Plus, we see the return of the mighty Thor, the continued evolution of the Exiles, and a look into the dark secret world of supreme power. Get ready because this month is an absolute ride. Ultimate 6, Volume 1, Issue 3. All right, so things kick off with Nick Fury doing his usual globe-trotting surveillance gig when an agent buzzes him, and they both stare at a screen with jaws dropped. Something major just went down, for real. Immediately, Nick calls in the Ultimates to the SHIELD prison, which is just trashed. Iron Man gets there first, confirming the obvious: all of the prisoners are gone. And the damage is bad. Only 3 out of 38 agents survived, and one of them is Hank Pym, who we saw get messed up pretty badly by mutant powered Otto Octavius. Surveillance tapes showed the whole chaotic breakdown. The Green Goblin, Electro, Dr. Octopus just plowed their way through the agents and soldiers, carving out an escape route for everybody else. And as Fury and the Ultimates huddle up to scheme, Fury suggests hitting up people with major grudges against these 5 villains. His mind immediately snaps to Peter Parker. Now, over at Peter's high school, Clay Quartermain, a SHIELD agent, pulls him right out of class. Being Peter, asks for ID, and Clay flashes Nick Fury there on his wristwatch. Fury, looking absolutely steamed, and barks at Peter to suit up and hustle. Clay then zips Peter straight to Triskelion SHIELD's headquarters. And at Triskelion, Fury's struggling to juggle the whole mess. He brings Peter in to meet the Ultimates, and man, are they floored that Spider-Man is just a kid. Tony Stark even cracks a joke, asking if Fury traveled back in time for this recruit, which is why he's Iron Man and not a comedian. When Peter finally gets how serious this whole situation is, he immediately starts arguing with Fury, insisting he's got to call Aunt May and Mary Jane, and Fury just loses it, screaming at Peter how he's lost more agents today than in his entire career, showing you just how much pressure he's under. Meanwhile, at the White House, Norman Osborn makes a phone call to the Chief of Staff. Osborn spills some seriously damaging secrets about Nick Fury, and let's just say they're not well received. The Chief of Staff hangs up quick and sprints into the Oval Office to drop this bombshell on the President. Will Fury's risky plan to stop the Ultimate Six be enough to save the world from this new threat? Daredevil, Volume 2, Issue 53. Okay, archivists, let's dive back in. We pick up in a profoundly unsettling place, Riker's Island, where the Kingpin drops a bombshell on Maya Lopez. He confesses to manipulating her and her father's death, but then reveals a twisted affection, claiming to love her like his own daughter, as much as it's in his nature to do so. Back home, Maya struggles with this revelation. She understands that while Fisk's actions were evil, his words felt genuine, leaving her profoundly unsettled. This realization shatters her previous understanding, forcing her to see that her anger and emptiness aren't just from external betrayals, but are now rooted inside of herself. Upon seeing her self portraits, she questions if her quest for vengeance was a waste of her talents, realizing she needs to follow the lead of heroes like Daredevil, who turn setbacks into strengths. This new path leads her back to her roots, to the reservation where her father used to take her. Maya's return to the reservation feels like a homecoming. She finds the old chief is still alive, who recognizes her as the deaf girl who once asked profound questions. The chief reveals he heard of her Echo play and explains the immense power of stories. They gain a life of their own, evolve, and they even return to their storyteller sometimes, offering new insight. He confirms the Sweat Lodge was held for her father, filled with stories and magic. When Maya seeks guidance, the chief prepares her for her own vision quest through a purification ceremony. He emphasizes that the Inipi, or the Sweat Lodge, is a sacred spirit place, a humble structure where diverse people can come together to achieve higher communication through humility. He urges her not to focus on the emptiness of her father's death, but the gift of his life, lest her world become empty. The chief explains that the original purpose of the Vision Quest, a solitary journey where a Magneto or spirit might appear to confer supernatural power to the tribe's needs. He shares a legend of a boy's quest from which maize sprouted, becoming a life's purpose and a gift to his community. Maya begins her own quest fasting in the woods for 4 days. She starts to shed her fears, opening herself to the lessons of nature. In a dreamlike state, a rabbit and a wild dog approach her without fear. Then she sees an owl with glowing yellow eyes, which makes her think of the chief's 3 questions from the Vision Quest. Who am I? What have I become with who I am? And why am I here? As a storm gathers, she senses something large approaching, seeing a silhouette in the trees. The skies light up, and she sees the creature clearly, a man shaped like a wolverine. So Kingpin's confessed, Maya's on a vision quest for a new purpose, and who's this mysterious wolverine shaped person who appears to her? The Exiles, Volume 1, Issue 36. After some quick reality catch up, the Exiles get a nasty shock. In this reality, there's no Spider Man, no Thor, no Iron Man, no Avengers, and the X Men are probably still hitting books in high school. Yikes. Calvin drops an obvious truth bomb. For this nebulous mission, they're on their own, with only a brand new, unseasoned Fantastic Four to back them up, and one of them is currently a rampaging Rocky Beast. Reed Richards, still human thankfully, suggests that they find a way to reverse Ben's transformation, name dropping scientists like Tony Stark and Otto Octavius. Heather decides on a split strategy. Send Morph with Reed, despite Morph's sarcastic gripes about Reed's brain power and the whole turning best friend into Fing Fam Foom thing. The rest of the team heads straight in for the action in New York to tackle the Thing. Over at the Brooklyn Bridge, the Thing is living up to his name, tossing cars like toys, while a news chopper gets a little too close and pays the price. Mimic and Sasquatch crash the party with Heather taunting Ben about his lack of purple pants, before landing on his back and slamming him down. The fight is on. Thing throws Heather across the bridge, and then Mimic goes for a one-man fastball special in his metal form, only to get tossed himself. Meanwhile, Sue is trying to master her invisible powers, while Johnny is still trying to figure out how to nightlight everything on fire, while Sunfire is carrying most of the work picking up panicked civilians. Back at Stark Industries, Reed and Morph historical superhero knowledge and the genius of Tony Stark and Dr. Octavius race to create a device to reboot Ben. But the real shocker comes on the bridge. After a brutal underwater brawl, the Thing lands a devastating blow on Calvin's flesh form, shattering his ribs. And as Calvin lies bleeding on the shore, he delivers a chilling revelation to Heather. He wasn't on the Brood planet for 6 months, but a horrifying 4 years. He confesses he's been implanted with the brood eggs twice and has fought them off both times. With his body now severely damaged, though, he can't fight the new one growing inside of him. He desperately begs Heather to kill him before it's too late, but Heather in disbelief is hesitant. But Mimic, seeing the grim truth, makes a terrible choice. He blasts Heather with an optic blast and then unleashes a horrifying truth. You should have acted when you could, but it's too late now and there will never be another opportunity, and you'll have to face the Brood. Mimic, now hunched, bleeding with bone claws extended, has transformed into a terrifying Brood Mimic. What a gut punch, true believers. With Mimic now a brood-infested monster and the Thing still in a rampage, how will the Exiles possibly turn this chaos around? Mystique, Volume 1, Issue 7. We kick off in a tense late-night scene in Kongdong Palace at Pyongyang. A North Korean officer is pressing an elderly butler, a young woman and a boy, accusing one of them of being a shape-shifting spy who's lifted a sensitive document. The officer isn't messing around either, threatening to kill all 3 of them if the spy doesn't step forward. After some quick back and forth where the young woman tries to take the fall to protect the boy, Mystique bursts into action. Turns out she was disguised as one of the regime's statues, and she quickly takes down the officer. After revealing her true blue form, she gets a less than heroic reception from the kid, who immediately screams for guards. And the fight breaks out. Her handler, Short Pack, telepathically guides her through the palace, leading her to a fire escape and a quick exit with a Forge Tech rocket pack. The next morning, back at Mystique's safe house in Brooklyn, Professor X is waiting, albeit as a telepathic projection. He's got a grim news. Ford's cracked the stolen intel, revealing the North Korean plan to weaponize Big Pox, a mutated smallpox strain capable of instantly killing anyone vaccinated against the original virus, which means the millions of humans and mutants, including Xavier, Forge, and likely Mystique herself. Despite her initial protest that it's a human on human crime which is outside of her mutant focused mission, their personal stakes quickly become clear. Xavier assigns her to the job of neutralizing the bioweapons creator, Dr. Harrison Taylor, in Johannesburg. Forge joins the briefing, delivering some snarky banter with Mystique while equipping her with a lipstick tracker, a temporary biometric shield watch, and a super cool hairpin that zaps fountains. Because you never know when you're going to need to blow something up. Before Mystique even leaves for her mission, she gets an unexpected reunion at JFK International Airport. In disguise, she's confronted by Shepard, who immediately sees through her shape shifting. He reminds her of their romantic dinner in Cuba, where he tried to recruit her as a double agent. He asks why she still wears the necklace he gave her, which can summon him. Mystique, always pragmatic, retorts, because it looks expensive. Shepard then makes an irresistible offer: freedom from Xavier and immense wealth if she'll prove her loyalty by smuggling him a sample of the mutant smallpox she's been tasked to acquire. Mystique is furious and he knows about her mission, but Shepard vanishes before she can press him for more details. Moments later, Shepard reports back to his shadowy boss, a hooded figure on a throne, confirming he's found Raven. He's instructed that next time he can tell her she works for the Quiet Man, whose true identity she'll soon discover. So, what's it going to be, true believers? Will Mystique play both sides, or will she stick to her mission and face down the Quiet Man? This mutant drama is just getting started. New X-Men, Volume 1, Issue 48. Alright, so picture this. Asteroid M is on an unstoppable collision course, literally plummeting straight towards the sun for its ultimate destruction. And who's trapped inside, totally helpless? None other than Wolverine and Jean Grey. Wolverine drops the grim truth on Jean. They've got enough air for 36 hours. But here's the real kicker: they've actually going to hit the sun in about 24. Jean is desperate to move, is using her telekinesis to try to build some kind of escape, but she quickly confirms the station is just too massive, and the heat, it's already absolutely searing. You then get this key detail about Wolverine's past. He tells Jean he got gutted by Weapon 15 and blew up Weapon Plus Station before crashing into this very asteroid. As the sun gets closer and closer, but they both realize it's Magneto who's truly behind this dire situation. You can practically feel the clock ticking down on their last moments. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Magneto is not exactly having a calm day. You see Ernst lamenting Zorn, but Magneto wastes no time in shutting that down, reminding her that Zorn was simply a fiction. It's always been him. He's also brushing off Toad's frantic reports of chaos in the streets because his focus is entirely on the grand design. And what's that design, you ask? He's masterminded nothing less than a full blown species war, all orchestrated in Charles Xavier's name, whom we know as Xavier's unconscious captive. Magneto, in a truly chilling monologue, lays out his plan. He's going to reverse the Earth's magnetic core, a cataclysmic event designated to obliterate humanity and usher in the era of Homo Superior, all supercharged by the drug kick. He's even commanding Esme to hunt down any surviving X-Men using Cerebra, and perhaps most shockingly, he orders a visibly horrified Beak to lead a massive extermination of humans in New Genosha. You can see Magneto is pushing an extremist vision to his absolute terrifying extreme. Now, as the temperature inside Asteroid M climbs to an unimaginable level, Wolverine and Jean share a heartbreaking conversation. Jean reveals the Phoenix Force can't fly them through space. She's rapidly fading and her powers are slipping away. Wolverine, in a desperate attempt to find any way out, even lashes out and smashes machinery. But it's clear that there's no escape. Then, in an incredibly gut wrenching moment, as Jean begs him not to leave her, Wolverine makes the ultimate agonizing choice. He plunges his claws into her, instantly ending her life to spare her the prolonged, torturous death. He then carries her lifeless body to the airlock, declaring that they'll all go out in a blaze of glory. As the sun finally engulfs Asteroid M, Jean's corpse briefly ignites with the Phoenix's immense power before both Wolverine and Jean and the entire asteroid are utterly annihilated. It's a powerful, tragic, and definitive end to their story. All right, fellow fanatics, let's pull back the curtain and get a good look at how the sausage gets made. We're diving into the professional life of a comic book artist during the early 2000s. So we've seen the penciler that lays down the foundation, but a house isn't a home until the walls have been painted and the furniture has been arranged. The real magic, the mood, the visual punch often comes from two other crucial players, the inker and the colorist. These professionals are the ones who turn a penciled blueprint into a living, breathing piece of art. Their work isn't just about filling in the lines and hues, it's about making deliberate and professional choices that shape the entire reader experience, bringing a specific vision to life. The inker's role is about the finality and defining form. They are the artistic architect who take the pencil work and meticulously trace it with ink, a process that requires a steady hand and a deep understanding of weight and texture. A good inker doesn't copy lines, they add depth, shadows, and dimension, refining the penciler's work and giving it a finished, polished look. Their choice of line thickness and shading techniques can completely alter the tone of a panel, from a gritty noir feel to a clean, dynamic aesthetic. Think of them as a final pass before the page is ready for color, the one who truly solidifies the visual narrative. Think of them as the final pass before the page is ready for color, the one who truly solidifies the visual narrative. And then you have the colorist, the professional mood maker. Their job is to breathe life into the black and white pages, choosing palettes that establish the setting, time of day, and emotional tone of the scene. A colorist can make a dark alley feel claustrophobic and dangerous with heavy shadows and muted tones, or make a cosmic battle feel epic and vibrant with dazzling array of light and energy. The transaction to digital coloring in the early 2000s gave them more power than ever before, allowing for complex gradients, lighting effects, and textures that were impossible with traditional methods. A masterful colorist is a storyteller in his own right, using light and shadow to guide the reader's eye and heighten dramatic stakes. Speaking of a period of serious change, after the market bubble burst and Marvel's bankruptcy in the 90s, editor in chief Joe Quesada and his team had to completely rebuild. They shifted the business model away from producing collectible issues to focusing on cohesive storytelling. This meant that the entire creative process and the people running it had to get a professional upgrade. The issues we're covering are direct consequences of that hard reset and the new mandate to deliver consistent quality and narrative depths. Now, back then, a comic artist's day to day was a grind of pure productivity. It was a deadline driven trade, not some romantic artistic endeavor. The penciler, the engine of the process, would get a full script from the writer with specific panel descriptions. Their job was to translate the text into visual blueprint, often with a strict output of 1 page per day to keep the monthly book on its schedule. This pencil work, usually done with a physical Bristol board, was the foundation, but the big shift of the era was digital. That artwork was scanned for coloring and lettering, which allowed for a more efficient and precise workflow than ever before. This transition created a new kind of creative workforce. We moved away from the superstar artistic culture of the 90s, where an individual's brand could sell a book on its own, to a more collaborative auteur team approach. Think of legendary pairings like Bendis and Maliv on Daredevil. The art wasn't just a flashy selling point, it was integral to the tone and narrative of making visuals and stories inseparable. This new professional mode demanded a unified vision and consistency, making the artist's contribution a quantifiable business asset that shaped the entire line of books. All right, my story sages, that's a wrap up on our deep dive into the art that defined a generation. We've seen how the visual styles from legends like Mark Bagley, Alex Maliv, and John Romita Jr. weren't just pretty pictures, but were professional backbone of a new era of storytelling. They were architects building worlds and characters every line and every panel. But a blueprint is nothing without the finishing touches. Next time on our Behind the Panels segment, we'll be pulling back the curtain on an often overlooked but absolutely crucial role, the letterer. We'll explore how the digital revolution turned the utilitarian task into a professional art form with custom fonts and design choices that shape how we hear and read the story. You're not going to want to miss this. Supreme Power, Volume 1, Issue 3. Our story kicks off with Mark Milton meeting President George Bush. Bush tasked Mark with a top secret mission for Operation Desert Storm: destroy Iraqi resources fast and without being seen. Mark accepts, and his unseen actions lead to Iraq's quick surrender, though the victory is publicly credited to the coalition missiles. Years later, Jason Scott, a sharp reporter for the Washington Herald, smells a rat. He's suspicious of Iraq's easy defeat and the other uncredited American victories. Despite his editor's warnings, Scott digs deep into Project Hyperion, finding sparse clues but eventually locating Miss Kavanaugh, who first discovered Mark. Scott hammers the CIA with letters, finally getting a censored document and a secret meeting with an unnamed agent, where he learns some truth. Unknown to Scott, the government is watching every move he makes. He's not the only reporter digging, but he's the closest to cracking Hyperion's secret. The powers that be are split: keep hiding Hyperion or risk uncontrolled leak. The decision lands on President Bill Clinton's desk, and he gives the green light to reveal the truth about Scott. And how does the revelation happen, true believers? Scott gets woken up in the middle of the night by a personal visit from Hyperion himself. Talk about a wake-up call. Eventually, Hyperion's existence becomes public. He's introduced as a superhero and a government operative. But his true origins? They're spun into a cover story. He's the son of two American research scientists tragically lost in a plane crash, and President Clinton even dubs him an American citizen. The day after the big press splash, Scott questions Hyperion about his true past, but Hyperion can only say he doesn't know. Back at the Washington Herald, Scott tells his boss that Hyperion's eyes show isolation and loneliness, a sign of something still not being right. Plus, Scott's hearing whispers of another superfast being moving around Georgia, making him suspect Hyperion isn't the only superhero out there. The plot thickens. What a wild ride, true believers. Hyperion's secret is out, but it seems there's still plenty for Jason Scott to uncover. What do you think Scott will find in Georgia? Thor, Volume 2, Issue 70. In a hidden cave, Mistress Kaya, a powerful magic wielder, and her followers spot Thialvi's arrival. They know it's the moment Zarko the Seer predicted. Meanwhile, in Loki's grim dungeon, Thor greets Thialvi, but Thialvi immediately calls him out. Thor's missing an eye and his left arm, and even Mjolnir. Before Thor can explain, Loki butts in. Thor demands Loki release Jordal, but Loki holds on to her for questioning. No dice for Loki, though, as Jordal escapes and runs right into a grown Magni, Thor's son, who helps her get clear. Thor then takes Thialvi on a whirlwind tour, showing him what his reign has done to Earth. Thialvi asks about the other Asgardians, and Thor drops a bombshell. Sif died when Asgard was destroyed. During their tour, Thor explains mortals are free, and Earth's energy now comes from jewels harnessed to the planet's core. But then the big confession: Thor admits that he abolished religions to stop strife in the Middle East, and Thialvi has some serious doubts. But Thor just insists the Earth is practically perfect now. Back in her hideout, Kaya isn't playing. She pulls Zarko's time travel device from under glass, and then she looks down a deep shaft into her lair, and at the bottom, just sitting there, is none other than Mjolnir. A chilling reminder that this perfect future might have some huge cracks and that major power is out of Thor's hand. Ultimate Spider-Man, Volume 1, Issue 48. So things kick off at the Daily Bugle, and Peter Parker is having a day. He's there to grab his stuff, but it quickly turns into an epic rant against J. Jonah Jameson. Peter just unleashes, telling JJ that he was fired not because he messed up, because J. Jonah Jameson is too twisted to give a straight answer. Whew. JJ naturally threatens to call security, and Peter bails, probably muttering under his breath all the way out the door. No cap, it's a whole scene. Still fuming, Peter swings away from the Bugle, but now he's in his full Spider-Man gear and he's furious. Where does the super mad Spidey go? Straight to Kingpin's building, obviously. He tries to smash through the reinforced glass. Seriously, Peter, what are you thinking? But it doesn't budge. Spider-Man just screams in rage at the unmoving Kingpin on the inside, who of course just stares back at him with an absolute evil grin on his face. Talk about adding insult to injury. Later, the anger is still simmering when Peter's at Midtown High. He brings up Kingpin's recent pardon in class, looking for some answers, but when his teacher doesn't give him the right one, Peter just loses it and lashes out. The result is suspension. So within a single 24-hour period, Peter's fired and suspended. You can bet Aunt May is not happy about his double whammy. And talk about disappointed superhero mom, she's probably low key ready to ground him forever. But hey, Peter's not the only one digging into Kingpin. While all this is going down, Ben Aldrich from the Daily Bugle is interviewing Sam Bullitt. It starts off chill, but Ben quickly pivots, hitting Bullitt with some hard questions about his ties to Wilson Fisk. Ben records the whole intense exchange and races back to the Bugle. And guess what? They decide to run the story. Looks like someone else is ready to take on the Kingpin, even if Peter's currently taking a timeout for everything. Ultimate X-Men, Volume 1, Issue 38. Back at the X Mansion, Professor Xavier deep dives into Wolverine's mind, rummaging through those Weapon X memories, and bam! He uncovers the truth. Tara, the relentless hunter, was a soldier in that same twisted program, working right alongside John Wraith. After Logan bails, Xavier hits up Nick Fury, laying out his new threat to his X-Men. But Fury, ever the government guy, tells Xavier to chill, asserting that S.H.I.E.L.D. can handle it and the X-Men, being a peacekeeping force, should sit this one out, right? Wolverine stomps into the dining hall, immediately feeling the icy stares and judgmental vibes from his teammates. Seriously, guys, fed up, he heads out to the yard for some peace, only to be joined by Jean Grey. She lays it all out, telling him she'll never forgive him for trying to off Cyclops. She'll be a teammate, sure, respecting Xavier's call, but anything romantic between them? Toast. Just as things get awkward, Jean feels a familiar, powerful presence. A helicopter sent by Tara, of course, is hovering in the distance, zeroing in on Wolverine once more. The pilot thinks they're unseen, but whoosh! A fiery Jean Grey comes soaring towards them. The Phoenix Force takes a hold once again and completely overrides Jean's actions, obliterating the helicopter and its occupants in a devastating explosion, leaving both Wolverine and Xavier utterly stunned. Talk about a fiery farewell. What do you think? Is Phoenix going to be a friend or a foe in this saga? And that's a wrap up for another deep dive, my Saga Squad. We've spent the last couple of episodes digging into the final days of 2003 and seen the groundwork for a new era being laid. The pieces are all in place and the board is set for changes, good or ill, to the Marvel Universe forever. So, what's up next for our narrative navigators? We'll be looking at the milestone issues of Amazing Spider Man number 500, the Fantastic Four 505, as well as major developments for Wolverine, Captain America, and the Punisher. Don't miss a single panel. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell to join the fandom force. And here's the complete rundown of everything that will be tackled next week. Same ordered time, same ordered omnibus.